All right, we've got our rafters cut. There are two patterns here. This one goes on this side with the plywood. You can see that little notch I made for the plywood. And this one goes over here. So now we need to do our layout on our top plates so we can figure out how many of these we need and how many ceiling joists and stuff. So the layout of the rafters are going to go in the same direction as the floor joists. So we make sure we bear on the walls with the headers, like this wall and this wall. This is where the rafters are going to bear, not on this wall because there's no structural headers in there. And we're going to start our layout from the same side as where we started our floor framing and wall framing. Because remember, we want that load path to line up. And every stud is going to want to have a rafter stacked. You don't want the rafters falling in the center of the stud bay. I mean, you can, but it's just a little harder when you're running your electrical and mechanical stuff if the rafters are landing on the middle of a stud bay. So we're going to use our same layout. It's 16 on center, which scales in this project to 1 3/8 on center. So you're going to pull it off the same corner we framed. We started our layout for the walls and floor joists, and just mark every 1 3/8 on center. And we're going to do that for both outside walls where our rafters bear, and we're going to do it on our center load-bearing partition because that's where our ceiling joists are going to bear on there. If you want to make this go a little faster, you can put your layout on a story stick and just line that up with the corner and then transfer those marks on every single plate. All right, so I've got my layout marks on there. Now I'm going to use my framing square, and I'm just going to square those across. I think I just called this a framing square. It's a combo square. Sorry about that. So anyway, I've got all my layout marks. Rafters, we're going to go 16 inches and go on center. So we're going to do the same with the 1 3/8 and go. So after every line, we're going to put an R because that's where our rafters are going to bear. And in front of every line, we're just going to put an X, and that's going to be our ceiling joist. So the ceiling joist will set across there in front of the lines, and the rafters will bear here after the lines. I didn't need any rafter marks on my center bearing wall because the rafters aren't going to bear there. So, but I put it there anyway. But you can just skip that step and just put an X for the ceiling joists. We've got all our layout in here. You're going to have a rafter right out at the edges. So you're going to add 4 rafters there. And you're going to have a ceiling joist just inside the wall framing right here in order to give you nailing for your drywall right there. Right here, we've got a rafter right before this plate and a ceiling joist right there, which is close enough. Basically, it would scale to 1.5 inches in the field that you've got until your wall framing. So that's enough. That's close enough to give you drywall nailing for your ceiling from underneath. All right, so if we count up, we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 of each type of rafters, the ones that are notched for the plywood and the ones that don't have plywood. So 16 each of those. And we are going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 ceiling joists. And that should be it. Now the ceiling joists are going to go on here right flush with the outside of the wall framing. And when we put our rafter on, you can see that just the corner of that ceiling joist sticks up too high. So these ceiling joists are going to have to be clipped. Just the edges right there. That's pretty small to take off with your saw, but you can probably just pare it off with a utility knife. So when you're doing your ceiling joists, those are all pretty easy. They all should measure the same. I'm getting 20 and a 16th for all mine. So if you cut 15 of these at 20 and a 16th and then mark and clip those edges, you'll have enough ceiling joists. And then, like I said, 16 of each rafter. So you can see there's going to be a fair amount of cutting. Last part you'll need for your roof assembly is your ridge beam. So your ridge beam goes right down the center of the building right here. And I'm just a hair heavier than 20 inches in this direction. So the ridge beam, grab one of these ceiling joists, cut it down to 20 and a 16th, and then you're going to need your rafter layout on this again. So if you hold it on your top plate, transfer your rafter layout up to your ridge beam. But make sure you don't turn it around this way when you go to install it. And those marks, you're going to have to transfer them up both sides of the ridge beam because your rafters at the peak are going to land on that. So that's about it. That'll get you all your pieces for your rafter or for your roof. Next video, we'll start putting this thing together.